What happens when a woman's calm exposes the noise others hide behind? What if silence isn't emptiness, but the most honest language in the room? And what would shift if validation stopped being a currency at all? Welcome to time-tested advice, where ancient philosophy meets the modern world. I'm your host, Alfred. Let's get started. The woman who needs no validation is the most powerful force in the room. Today, we're not just talking about Sigma females. We're stepping into their silence, their power, and their misunderstood magic. Why do they shake the ground beneath some men's feet? Why do certain relationships crumble in their presence? And why does their quiet strength leave others speechless? This isn't a typical breakdown of personality types. This is an unfiltered dive into the emotional dynamics that unfold when a deeply independent woman walks into a man's life. 1. The unreadable silence. Sigma females exist in a space where silence is not emptiness, it's power. This isn't just about being quiet. It's about embodying a presence that doesn't rely on noise for recognition. In a world where many equate value with visibility, the Sigma woman flips the script. Her silence is not submissive, it's sovereign. This silence leaves many men disoriented, not because she's hiding, but because she isn't trying to impress. She's not fishing for attention or bending her voice to fit social norms. She doesn't need to prove her worth. She simply is. Men who are used to reading women through external cues, laughter, flirtation, neediness, find themselves. Confused, the Sigma woman gives none of those signs. Her eyes speak more than her lips. Her body language is relaxed but alert. She's aware always, but she's not always performing that awareness for anyone else's comfort. Her silence becomes a challenge. It forces a man to sit with his own noise. It reveals his insecurity, his discomfort with not being the center, and it disrupts a power balance where he's used to being in control through verbal command or charm. Silence in her world is not awkward. It's essential. It's a language, one only the emotionally mature can understand. In relationships, this silence acts like a mirror. It reflects back the emotional state of the partner. If there's chaos, it gets louder in her quiet. If there's strength, it becomes calmer beside her. This unreadable silence isn't a test. It's a filter. It separates those who need constant reassurance from those who are self-assured. It disarms manipulation. It disrupts codependence. It builds a space where only real, grounded connection can thrive. To the unaware, her silence feels cold, but to the attuned, it's the warm hum of inner peace. Men who crave connection but fear vulnerability often can't survive in this frequency. They retreat, confused, perhaps bruised, not by anything she did, but by what they saw in themselves when she did nothing at all. 2. Immune to flattery, unbothered by ego. The Sigma woman doesn't just avoid flattery, she sees through it. Compliments that might light up another person fall flat with her, not because she lacks confidence, but because her validation doesn't come from outside. This throws off many men, especially those who are used to leading with status, appearance, or charm. When she doesn't react, they feel invisible, not because she intends to hurt them, but because she doesn't play into the ego dance. It's not arrogance, it's clarity. Sigma women know who they are. Their self-worth isn't up for negotiation. When a man tries to win her through polished lines or social status, he finds himself ignored, not rudely, but completely. This unshakable neutrality can feel like rejection, but it's not. It's redirection. She's telling you, without words, that she sees something deeper. She's inviting you, if you're willing to drop the act and show up real. For many men, this feels threatening. They're used to being seen as powerful, desirable, impressive. But with her, none of those masks work. She isn't unimpressed because she's cold. She's unimpressed because she sees beyond the surface. Her unbothered attitude isn't dismissiveness. Discipline, she has trained herself to detach from the noise, from the illusion of perfection, from the performative layers that cover most people in social settings. In relationships, this creates a radical shift. A man either rises into authenticity or he falls back into his armor. The Sigma woman won't call him out. She doesn't need to. Her presence alone makes pretenders uncomfortable, not because she's timid, but because she makes lying to oneself impossible. To be with her is to drop the game. And for those who can't, her energy becomes unbearable, not because she demands too much, but because she accepts too little that isn't real. To the woman who knows she's different, not difficult. To the soul who's done performing for a place in the world. Choose yourself. Softly is not a roadmap. It's a return to softness, to sacred boundaries, to your inner voice. If you feel called, follow the link in the description or the first pinned comment. Let the book find you. 3. The disarming aura of self-containment. A Sigma female does not seek to be completed. She's already whole. This wholeness isn't loud or obvious. It's not announced in selfies or status updates. It's felt. It radiates from the way she walks into a room and doesn't need to own it. The way she listens more than she speaks. The way she doesn't chase connection, but becomes a magnet for it through presence alone. This unnerves many men, not because she's arrogant, but because she simply doesn't need them in the way others might. She's not looking for someone to save her or give her life meaning. She has her own meaning, her own rituals, her own peace. Men who are used to being the center of a woman's emotional world often feel disoriented around her. Their sense of masculinity is tied to being needed, but she doesn't lean, she doesn't cling, and that makes them feel invisible, sometimes even powerless. It's not that she avoids intimacy, quite the opposite, but she approaches it as an addition, not a fix. She wants a partner, not a protector, a mirror, not a master, and unless a man has done deep emotional work, this level of self-containment can feel like rejection. She doesn't ask for permission to exist. She doesn't require approval to follow her instincts. That kind of emotional sovereignty is rare, and it exposes every place where others are still seeking validation. In relationships, this creates an entirely different blueprint. There are no power games, no emotional blackmail, no passive aggressiveness, just presence, honesty, and space. Space. To grow, space to be. Space to choose each other, not out of fear, but out of fullness. For many men, this is foreign territory. It's unsettling to be with someone who doesn't need to be reassured constantly, who doesn't fall apart when things get silent. But this self-containment isn't distance, it's depth, it's trust in oneself, and in the process of real connection. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, say hello, and consider subscribing to our channel. And if you'd like to support our channel further, you can find that in the description. 4. Emotional intelligence on another frequency. The Sigma female is emotionally fluent in a way that feels alien to some. She reads energy more than words. She listens not just to what is said, but what is unsaid. Her sensitivity is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's 1/6 sense, tuned to emotional truth. For men who are used to hiding behind logic or ego, this is uncomfortable because they can't lie to her, not convincingly. She sees the cracks in the armor, the slight shift in tone, the tension behind the eyes. She doesn't need to confront it. She simply knows, and that knowing is confronting. It forces a man to face parts of himself he may have buried for years. She won't call him out harshly, but she also won't play dumb to protect his pride. Her emotional intelligence operates on a different frequency, one that demands presence, honesty, and vulnerability. Anything less feels hollow to her. She won't cling to someone who isn't emotionally available. She won't play therapist. She won't settle for surface. Many men aren't ready for this. They mistake her insight for control, her intuition for manipulation. But in truth, she's just tuned into her feelings, to his energy, to the unspoken layers of the relationship. This can make her feel too much to some men, too intense, too perceptive, too honest. But for the right man, the grounded, emotionally evolved man, she is freedom, because he doesn't have to pretend. He doesn't have to guard his heart. He can show up fully and be met there. Her emotional sensitivity is not about drama. It's about depth. She's not chasing emotional highs. She's seeking resonance, alignment, truth. And if that's not present, she will not stay. 5. Her boundaries are sacred, not negotiable. Most people talk about boundaries, but few know how to hold them. The Sigma woman doesn't just talk about hers, she lives them. Her boundaries are not threats, they are not tests, they are truths, they are lines drawn from a place of deep self-respect, not self-defense. To the ungrounded man, her boundaries feel like rejection, but they're not. They are an invitation to meet her with clarity, with maturity, with emotional presence. She won't beg to be understood. She won't argue for basic respect. She simply walks away when the energy turns misaligned. She doesn't scream her number. She whispers it with unwavering calm, and somehow that quiet no carries more weight than a 1,000. And loud arguments, because it's not meant to punish, it's meant to protect. Many men are used to pushing limits. They confuse love with sacrifice. They've been taught that persistence can turn a no into a maybe. But the Sigma woman doesn't shift her lines to avoid discomfort. She doesn't make herself smaller so others can feel big. If she says she needs space, she means it. If she says she won't tolerate disrespect, she won't. No second chances dressed in charm, no rationalizations wrapped in apologies. These boundaries are not rigid out of fear. They are soft steel, flexible, yes, but unbreakable. This terrifies men who thrive on control because with her manipulation has no place to land. Guilt doesn't work. Pressure dissolves. She simply holds the line again and again until those who can't meet her there remove themselves. And what's truly radical, she sets boundaries without anger, without drama. She doesn't need to defend them because they are not walls. They are invitations to meet her with integrity, to love her in alignment, to earn access to her inner world rather than assume it. Men who are emotionally immature may call her distant. They may say she's too picky, too difficult, too independent. But the truth is, she is simply self-aware, and that self-awareness is a mirror, one that forces others to confront their own lack of boundaries, their own tendency to overreach. In a relationship, her boundaries don't just keep her safe, they raise the standard. They create a space where both people can thrive without losing themselves. And that is love without dependency. That is freedom within connection. 6. No fear of alone. The most powerful thing about a Sigma woman, she does not fear solitude, not because she's jaded, not because she's given up on love, but because she has met herself deeply, honestly, fully, and she has found that her own company is not something to escape from, but to return to. This unshakable comfort in solitude is often misread. Some men see it as aloofness, others miss. Take it for emotional unavailability, but it's neither. It's sovereignty. It's the result of doing the inner work, of healing the wounds that once needed another person to bandage. When she is alone, she is not waiting. She is not pausing her life in hopes someone will come complete it. She's not placing her worth on being chosen. She's choosing herself again and again, in ways the world doesn't always understand. And that for many men is terrifying, because we live in a culture that equates a woman's value with her relational status. But the Sigma woman doesn't subscribe to that. Her worth is internal. Her peace is self-sourced. Men who seek power through dependency find nothing to feed on here. They cannot trap her with loneliness because she is lonely. They cannot manipulate her with absence because she isn't afraid of it. In love, this changes everything. She doesn't chase, she doesn't cling. If a man walks away, she lets him, not out of coldness but out of clarity, because she understands love cannot be forced, presence cannot be demanded. Energy must be aligned or released. And when she chooses to love, it is not from lack. It is from abundance, not from fear of being alone, but from deep desire to co-create something sacred. This kind of love isn't needy. It's not a contract. It's a dance between two whole people, each cap, of standing alone but choosing freely to stand together. And the moment it becomes draining, controlling, misaligned, she will walk not as punishment, but as promise to herself. 7. She demands depth without asking. The Sigma female doesn't audition people. She doesn't need to. Her very presence is the filter. Without uttering a word, she shifts the entire emotional tone of a room. She raises the energetic standard just by existing within it. And this is where things get uncomfortable, not because she's judging others, but because she's not performing. That alone threatens the fragile egos that rely on attention and validation. She doesn't demand depth through lectures or with conditions. She demands it by being it. Her stillness invites depth. Her eye contact becomes a portal. Her silence dares you to meet yourself, and for many, that's too much. For the man who is emotionally shallow, her energy is overwhelming. Not because she asks too much, but because she doesn't settle for so little. She doesn't cling to connections that are skin deep. She doesn't entertain surface-level conversations for the sake of social comfort. Small talk drains her, pretending bores her, facades repel her. She seeks the undercurrent, the truth that pulses beneath a person's words. If it's missing, she knows, and she moves on without a scene, without blame, without theatrics. Men who rely on charm or casual games often find themselves scrambling in her presence. What once worked with others, flattery, status, dominance, now feels hollow, powerless because she doesn't need it. She's after something else, and unless he can meet her on that deeper emotional plane, he won't last in her orbit. This doesn't mean she's harsh. It means she's discerning. She wants intimacy that's raw, not rehearsed. She wants conversations that make silence sacred, not uncomfortable. She wants emotional nakedness, the kind that strips pretense, not clothes. To the right man, this is intoxicating. To the wrong one, it's exhausting. In love, this is her baseline. Authenticity isn't a bonus, it's the bare minimum, and anything less becomes noise. She no longer has the energy to decode. 8. Freedom is her native language. Freedom to the Sigma woman is not a phase. It is her essence. She does not ask for space. She lives in it. Her spirit resists being caged, even subtly. She doesn't rebel loudly, but she drifts silently away from anything that begins to feel like control. This is not about avoiding commitment. It's about honoring alignment. She commits deeply, but only to what nurtures her truth, not what suffocates it. To men who equate love with possession, her freedom feels like rejection. They don't understand how someone can be so connected, so emotionally available, and still refuse to be owned. But that's the paradox of the Sigma woman. Her closeness comes from choice, not dependency. The more space she is given, the more intimacy she offers. The moment she feels emotionally caged, she begins to disappear spiritually first, then physically. She doesn't issue ultimatums. She doesn't explain her withdrawal. Her body, her presence, her energy all speak the language of sovereignty. And you either understand that language or you misread it as distance. Men who are insecure often try to. Their grip in response. They call more, demand more, guilt her into giving more, but this only pushes her away faster. She does not respond to pressure. She responds to peace. Her freedom is not a threat. It's a sanctuary, and only the man who is equally whole, who finds no fear in her independence, can truly stand beside her without trying. To shrink her in relationships, this dynamic is revolutionary. There are no emotional chains, no games of control, no manipulation masked as protection. There is breath, space, mutual trust. She will give everything love, depth, presence, but not at the cost of her freedom. If she must choose, she will always choose herself, and not out of ego, but out of inner alignment. 9. Still waters, deep currents. At first glance, the Sigma female might seem calm, maybe even too calm. She doesn't rush to speak, doesn't overshare, doesn't fill silence just to ease someone's anxiety. But beneath that surface stillness flows a river deep, wide, and fiercely alive. This depth is invisible to the untrained eye. Men who seek stimulation, not substance, often miss her entirely. They may find her hard to read or too reserved, but they fail to see that every pause, every quiet look, every word she chooses not to say carries weight. She doesn't perform for attention. She doesn't show off her intellect or emotional insight, but they're there, layered, complex, and unshakable. She's not loud because she doesn't need to be. She doesn't broadcast her depth. She lets you discover it if you can sit still long enough. Men who thrive on drama, chaos, and constant validation find themselves bored or confused around her, but boredom isn't what they're feeling. It's unfamiliar peace, a space they don't know how to hold. She speaks in subtle frequencies, her laugh. It is rare, but real. Her questions cut through the noise. Her presence demands that you slow down, not because she said so, but because your spirit knows this is not a place for pretending. She's been through storms you'll never see, fought battles in silence, healed in solitude. That serenity she carries, it's earned, and that depth doesn't just make her magnetic. It makes her dangerous, not because she harms, but because she reveals. She shows men how shallow they've been living, how often they confuse chaos for passion, how little they know about their own inner world. In love, this becomes a challenge. She doesn't settle for fast feelings. She values resonance, patience, layered connection. If you want to be with her, you must descend into yourself, into truth, into the currents beneath your surface. That's where she lives. And that's where she loves 10. She's not a prize, she's a path. The Sigma female cannot be won. She is not a trophy at the end of some romantic game. She is not something you earn by playing the right cards, saying the right things, or wearing the right mask. She is not a prize. She is a path. To be with her is to walk into yourself. She will not carry you, she will not fix you. But If you are brave, she will walk beside you as you face what you've spent years running from. This is where many men fail to understand her. They try to win her love like it's a competition. They try to unlock her like she's a puzzle. But the Sigma woman is not to be solved. She is to be met with humility, presence, and a willingness to grow. She doesn't want a man who's perfect. She wants one who's real, one who is self-aware enough to admit his shadows, strong enough to hold her complexity, soft enough to let her lead sometimes, and clear enough to know she doesn't need him, but she chooses him. Being loved by her is a privilege, not because she withholds, but because she invests with intention. She doesn't enter halfway. She doesn't love in pieces, and she expects the same in return. She asks nothing, but her energy asks everything. Without a word, she invites you into higher love, love with boundaries, with honesty, with spiritual maturity. To walk with her is to become more of yourself, to expand, to rise, or to walk away if you're not ready, and that's okay with her. She's not afraid of losing anyone who isn't aligned. She will not shrink herself to be digestible. She will not dilute her. Just to be more palatable, she has chosen herself too many times to ever betray herself again. She's not waiting at the finish line. She is the path, and only those who are willing to walk it with presence, not performance, will find her walking beside them. To the woman who walks quietly but feels deeply, to the soul that's tired of proving her softness is strength. This is your mirror, your breath, your reminder. Choose yourself softly invites you home, not through noise, but through stillness, not through effort, but through truth. Let the words find you. The link is in the description and in the first pinned comment. Now you know, Sigma females don't make men weak, they reveal. Where the weakness hides, they don't break relationships. They expose where they were never whole. If today's video stirred something in you, carry that thought into the silence, sit with it, and when you're ready, speak from that stillness. Until next time, walk quietly, love deeply, and protect your peace. Stay rare, stay true, stay wise. 11. She reads actions as fluent as words. Patterns tell her more than promises do. Consistency becomes the only language she trusts, and when the behavior and the story don't match, she honors the behavior, adjusting access, not arguing intent. 12. Her standards soften the right man and sort the wrong ones. What cannot meet her level simply drifts away without ceremony, while the one who can feels more himself beside her, because maturity is the only key that opens what performance never will. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'm your host, Alfred, and I read every comment.